So as I was saying, this is the design regulations. A form-based code is, whereas a zoning ordinance looks at the land uses and sort of separates everything, what a form-based code does is look at the shape and placement of the buildings. Now, there's still restrictions on what go in those buildings, but it can be more mixed up and it's more market-driven. As in order to write design regulations, we have to have some idea of what design you want.
I'm Stephanie O'Neill, landscape architect. And I work with the Council of Governments that actually is helping out.
You get 2 more. Like us to think about connections among areas.
This is cheap. Here, the beach and the bridge. It's just like,
You really don't want to mess with Collinsville that much because you're going to ruin it.
What do you perceive as neighborhood protection?
Preserve that and accentuate that in some of the development that will be happening. And also keeping things to a small scale. So we're talking about buildings, say even along Route 44. We're not opposed to buildings being put up to 1 or 2 stories, but the biggest thing is maybe keeping them close to the road, having parking be back behind the building. With the vehicles and the businesses, having more connection between parking lots.
Specifically for Collinsville, we talked about enhancing the river activity on traffic issues, needing an additional entrance or egress from the shops. Talked about there are ways perhaps to do that, but we also talked about protecting residential areas. For the town center, which is the Canton Village area, according to these things, we said let's create a town center feel in Canton Village. You know, that there's a lot of opportunity in that area for mixed use, pedestrian walkability, and maybe even a boutique hotel.
Canton Village itself, how it's not only not pedestrian friendly, but non-driving friendly also. Talk a lot about making Route 44 much more bike and pedestrian friendly. We have stories, everything basically we wanted to keep basically around 3 to 4 stories, except for the Western Gateway. We thought we'd keep it around 2. The Western Gateway we thought was more of a rural feel to it because you're getting.
You know, the idea is increasing access to the river, protecting the river, but exploiting its economic potential as well, and making sure that whatever we do, we don't screw up that asset by polluting it or whatever. And business, whether that's office or retail or what have you. But the idea of having almost clusters of retail residential development thing. And then lastly, and this is a pretty simple one, but that is the idea of signage. Creating entry points into the town.
Okay, well, we discussed most of the things that have already been cited as advantages and things to build on and things to preserve. But we also had some contentious discussions. For example, I personally brought up the notion that when I heard the word recapture some little shop or some little service that we don't have within 5 minutes of downtown Canton or Collinsville, I thought, my God, let's think more regionally. And as I mentioned, we have everything but Frank Lloyd Wright and Mies van der Rohe in Collinsville. And then if you ask what would be wrong with having a Mies van der Rohe or a Frank Lloyd Wright in Collinsville? This wetland, this vast wetland here where I used to lose golf balls, is right on the edge of this enormous parking lot south of the Shoppies. And I've had a bee in my bonnet for actually years about the idea of having some townhouse residences along that edge.
44 because people are reluctant to travel into Canton now. The congestion, the serious congestion we identified was the bottleneck between the shops, the CVS, and the stoplight at Lawton Road, creating a backlog of traffic all the way to La Trattoria. And it's hurting business. We also feel that it's a safety issue. We liked the same things we heard from the other groups about pedestrian and biking along Route 44. And, you know, as the development has crept west, we've lost the views and the character. We'd like to preserve that character, though, kind of hold the line on that by having more sensitive development continuing along Route 44. We see the downtown area of Collinsville as being the distinct downtown development area for mixed use. But we identified that north of this line is all residential. There are a couple of non-conforming properties.
Or you wake up in the shower tomorrow and have a huge revelation. Come on down. We're going to be here.